All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Pro Zone. This is Rick, and joining me this week from the Top Rope Report is Mr. Trivia. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing pretty good, Rick. Yourself?
All right. We're going to be talking about WWE Backlash on the WWE Network. Mike, overall, what did you think of the show?
Um, I didn't think it was that bad. The Randy Orton Edge match, I think, saved the pay-per-view.
I got to be honest with you. I'm pretty much in agreement with you that the show was pretty much a dud up until that. I thought that was really the best match of the show. And there was a couple things in the match that I didn't particularly think was that normal. I mean, one of the things I did like a lot was the pre-recorded Howard Finkel announcements. I thought that was amazing. And the ode to the old MSG microphone and the crowd noise seemed to be dubbed in to make it sound like it was a little bit more intense. But that was one hell of a match, though. I do have to agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was not able to watch the pre-show. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to turn it on until pretty much exactly when the show started, as the intro was started. But you were able to see it. Apollo Crews took on Andrade, defending his United States Championship. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I can't get over the how much Apollo Crews has improved over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can tell he's been spending time in the gym. He's been working on his skills. He's been getting into ring work. I would have to say that that was a good match to start off the pre-show with, because I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I like both guys. I am kind of upset that I didn't get to see it, so I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at that and see how that goes. But I'm sure that was a pretty good match. I thought it was weird that they opened up with the Women's World Tag Team Championship match. Bayley and Sasha Banks, which are the champions, took on Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross and the Iconics for the tag titles. This really was just, it just seemed like it was a regular match for like Raw or SmackDown. It didn't really seem like it added much to the show, and it was supposed to be the opener that was supposed to get everybody into the show.
Right, well, the match was a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And you see, when I do the podcast on Sundays, for a pay-per-view, we have what's called a prediction show, where all the guys that are involved with the Top Rope Report, we make our predictions on who we think is going to win each match that we go over. Mm-hmm. And I did pick Sasha and Bayley, but the way I picked them to end it was I picked Sasha to submit Nikki Cross.
Okay.
But I did pick Sasha and Bayley to win the match. I believe their title reign. I think Bayley will probably lose the SmackDown Women's title before they lose the tag team title.
I think it's very possible. She's had it for quite a while now. Who do you see taking the title from her?
Well, I heard through the grapevine that NXT is going to be sending Rhea Ripley to SmackDown.
That's interesting, because she was it earlier in the year? She was like the hottest thing on WWE, NXT TV, and she made quite the impact during her invasion in WWE towards the late 2019, yep. When NXT invaded Raw and SmackDown.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that actually happened. I think that would be fantastic. She's an amazing talent.
Obviously, yes, she is. I mean, when she came on to Raw and then went back to NXT, and then when she lost to Charlotte, all of a sudden she just vanished like a fart in the wind.
Yeah.
And I said to Greg, I said, what happened to her? Where did she go? And her visa expired.
Oh, okay.
So she couldn't go anywhere until they renewed the visa. I said to Greg, I said, just give her MasterCard. What difference does it make? So,
yeah, that would be interesting. Rhea Ripley coming up to SmackDown. It seems like they're really trying to improve both of the main roster, whether it be Raw and SmackDown. Ever since this pandemic started, they've been trying to bring up a lot of guys from NXT, guys and girls, rather, I should say. And what was it, last week Matt Riddle showed up on SmackDown, and Dijakovic on Raw.
Well, Matt Riddle makes his SmackDown debut this Friday coming up.
Oh, this coming up. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to watch SmackDown yet. I was supposed to try to get to it yesterday and today, and it's my schedule's just been crazy. I wasn't able to watch it yet, but I do know that the Intercontinental Championship, about the AJ won the title, and that I remember talking to you yesterday. You said that it was probably match of the year
Oh,
already, and we're only in June. And some other people have said that as well. I'd really like to check that match out because if I don't get to the whole show, I just definitely want to watch that. AJ did he make an appearance tonight? I'm trying to
yeah.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in the back.
I'm surprised that they didn't have him defend it on the show because a lot of times they do end up doing that. They end up, whatever happens on Friday and then, something carries over usually, but they didn't. Who do you see him going? Do you think he'll continue to go in with more matches with Daniel Bryan?
I think so. Yeah, I think I think you're also going to see him go into a couple of programs with Drew Gulak as well.
I think it's about time that they really pull the trigger on Drew Gulak and give him a title on the main roster. I thought the matches, when he was a cruiserweight champion on 205 Live, I thought it was really good, and I think that he's one of the more underrated workers that they have in WWE right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's see. Was it Sheamus beat Jeff Hardy? I didn't really care for this match that much. What about you?
Neither did I. I mean, this they could have put that on a pre-show match. It wouldn't have really mattered.
This one definitely could have been on the pre-show. This should have replaced the United States title match. I think they just did it because it's Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, and that's why they put it on the main card. I think.
Do you think this might be the end of Jeff Hardy now?
Well, from what I understand, since he came back, he had his contract was extended because it was on freeze because he was on an injury. So I think it was like he has 6 months left or something like that. And the rumor is that he's going to be joining his brother in AEW. Just saying. I don't know how true it is, but it could happen. I mean, I'm not surprised that Matt Hardy really showed up there either. The storyline with Sheamus and Jeff Hardy really it's a little ridiculous because it's they're really going into Jeff Hardy's personal life and using some really painful moments and just digging too deep into his personal life with his drug addiction and his alcoholism and all that stuff and bringing it onto his storylines. I don't know how he feels about it. If he has any say in it whatsoever, and if he does and he agreed to it, then whatever. But I just think it's a little bit much.
And if you remember, they did that some years back with CM Punk and Chris Jericho.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah. I think something like that needs to be left out of the storyline because that's a man's personal business. And
yeah, it hits a little too close to home in a way because, like I said, Jeff has struggled a little too much with drug and alcohol abuse, and to have him supposed, they found tequila in his car and he, drunk driving into what's his name, Elias. There, it was just a bit much for me, and honestly, it didn't really lead up to much because the match, like I said, in my opinion, was a complete dud.
Yeah, I agree.
And the Raw Women's title, I was really looking forward to this match because I really like Asuka a lot. I think she's one of my favorites going today. And then in a double countout.
Yeah, that was the waste.
That was a complete waste of, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes or something like that. Yeah. It really bothered me because it's like they just do stuff like that just to try to, it seems like they try to rile up the fans by doing a non-decision in a way. It was corny, and they should have had her, Asuka, or maybe just like a one-way count out, not just a double count out, because there's just a bunch of crap. Do you think that they're going to build up Nia Jax for a title reign?
They should have built up Nia Jax for a title run 2 years ago.
I tend to agree with you on that because
for some reason after she had her injury and her operation, she was in the gym saying she lost like 50 pounds. Where? It's like she looks bigger now than she did beforehand. But keeping in sync with women's wrestling, I did see something today. I got a notification today that the WWE is putting a hold on Shayna Baszler's push, and
How about
the reason they're putting a hold on her push is because of her appearance.
what's the matter with her appearance? Because she looks like a tough woman that could rip anybody apart. I don't get that.
Most people say she looks like a dude.
That's a bunch of crap. I
I
mean,
know.
because
I think
she's a legit fighter, like in a cage fighter, and I think that she's, to be honest with you, she's one of the best talents that they have as far as like in that division goes. I think that she's a
yep,
tremendous worker. She can mix it up in styles, and she comes in with that kind of like it's like the female version of Taz or something like that.
yeah,
Like it comes in like a legit MMA fighter, just ripping people apart.
yep. I agree. But I mean, her talents alone,
Yeah.
like what she did in the Elimination Chamber, that right there should have automatically elevated her to number one status right there.
Yeah, I don't know what they do sometimes, like what they're thinking when it comes to that. It's like they come in and they build people up, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, hang on, uh, you're not right for that, and then put them to the side and then bring somebody else in. And Shayna Baszler is the perfect example of that because she hasn't been on TV in a while, has she?
Nope. No, she hasn't. And I really hope the WWE doesn't try to repackage her.
I hope not, because it's not like a lot of times people they try to repackage people into like stupid gimmicky type things, and she's Um, she's better as a like a legit person, and being herself is coming in as the MMA fighter.
Hmm? Absolutely.
So let's see, where do we go from here? This match I thought was ridiculous. The Braun Strowman, Miz, and Morrison. This is just nothing but comedy skits, like over and over for the last few weeks on SmackDown. I did not, like I said, I don't think I saw this past Friday, but I did see where was it? He was talking there with the interview artist, and she got slimed, and
Yeah.
then what was it? They ruined Strowman's car after that, the windshield. I don't know if anything happened after that though. So, but I just think it's Ms.
Well,
Morrison. They're acting like that MTV culture, like those people that
yeah.
just like jackass culture, like doing stupid things and to try to do, to get attention, and they're doing it against their Universal Champion. And
Yeah.
I
So
don't
you
think.
missed, so you missed the
Go.
part where he flipped over the van.
Yes,
Yeah,
I didn't
okay.
see that. Yeah. I don't think Strowman's really delivering as like the Universal Champion. I think the Universal Championship's a stupid belt to begin with. I just don't think that he's really delivering, and I don't. They probably just gave it to him because, or he beat Goldberg just because they needed to get it off of Goldberg. I think that
Right.
Goldberg just came in just to try to garner some attention for WrestleMania.
And
But
Strowman's really not that good on the mic.
No,
And
he's
that's one of the things Vince McMahon looks for. If he's going to make you a champion, I mean, look at all the guys he's had as champions before. Daniel Bryan, good on the mic.
yeah,
Kofi Kingston, good on the mic.
yep,
The best one on the mic, CM Punk.
yeah,
If you're good on the mic and you can talk, Vince is going to make you a legit star status.
absolutely.
And Braun
Absolutely.
Strowman is really not good on the mic, but he's 6'8", he's 385 pounds, he chews rust and spits nails, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard to take the title off of him.
Yeah, he can throw people around like sacks of potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
It's he but he's really, if you look at him otherwise, I find him to be a worthless I wouldn't say worthless. Let me take that back. That he's just not that interesting. You know what I mean? He's
Right.
just another big guy, a muscle guy, and he's just not interesting. If he had a mouthpiece, maybe, a manager, like a Bobby Heenan or Jimmy Hart type character. And if they turned him heel, I think he'd be 100% better.
And that's what's going to make Bobby Lashley champion eventually, because now MVP is taking over the role that Paul Heyman has with Brock Lesnar.
Right, right.
Because Bobby Lashley is dumb as a fence post. He is horrible on the mic. I'd rather listen to Helen Keller on the mic.
Well, let me ask you before we get into the McIntyre Lashley match. Did you ever see Lashley's run in Impact Wrestling?
I didn't see too much of Impact Wrestling.
I thought he was pretty good in there, especially in the mic when he was able to cut his own promos without doing the WWE scripted promos.
Yeah.
I thought he was pretty good in there. But he comes into WWE, and like you said, he's as dumb as a fence post. He's not that interesting.
Nope.
No. But, I think that his time is coming that he will come in and gain one of the two main roster titles, whether it be the WWE title from McIntyre at some point, or even if he goes over to SmackDown and takes the Universal title. But, time will tell. What did you think of the McIntyre-Lashley match?
I thought it started out ho-hum, but then it gradually got better as the match went on.
Right.
They need to do something with Lana. I mean, if they're going to get her involved, get her involved. Just don't have her come up on the apron and stand there like she's Miss Thing. And, because like I said, with our prediction show, I predicted Drew McIntyre to win, but I also predicted MVP to cause Bobby Lashley to lose.
Okay.
And it was Lana that caused Bobby Lashley to lose.
I think they need to do something with Lana. I think it's kind of interesting that they fired her husband or laid her husband off and kept her. How do you think that's working out in the home? That's got to be pretty interesting.
That's going over like a snowball in hell. That's for sure. But supposedly Rusev is going to wind up with the glorified Ring of Honor, AEW.
You heard him about Ring of Honor or AEW?
No, I said the glorified Ring of Honor, which I consider AEW.
I heard that there was rumors definitely that he might jump over there, but you never know who's going to show up there.
I think he'll be a huge star in Impact.
I think so. I think you're right. I think Impact though right now is a terribly underrated television program. If you don't know, I've been covering Impact on Tuesday nights with my friend Dan. Usually Wednesday mornings they're released. Me and Danny record Tuesday night right after, and it comes out. So I don't know if you've checked it out yet, but it's we usually watch it and then record around 10:30, about a half hour after it ends. It's kind of like tonight. So I think they have an amazing roster, and with a lot of people that were recently let go by WWE, it seems they've been hinting that a lot of those guys are going to be popping up, especially guys like Heath Slater, and I think Matt Cardona was named, and definitely EC3 as well was in one of the promos. So I think that we're kind of like going to be gearing up for a sort of invasion or like a somewhat of a reboot of Impact, and I think Impact is going to be it's going to be on the rise again as far as because it's like suffered for a number of years, especially after it was sold from bought out from Dixie. I think it's gonna get back up there.
And EC3 is back in TNA now.
Yeah, well, yeah, it wasn't. He hasn't shown up yet, but
right.
I think he's gonna be showing up at the pay-per-view, or he was in the promo ad for it.
Yeah, but let me get your opinion on what I think, in my opinion, was the best match of the night tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. Oh my God, what the hell are they doing?
That wasted about a half hour of my life.
That was like 25 minutes of my life I'll never get back again.
That I don't know why they keep featuring those two teams every single week in ridiculous skits like that on Raw.
Yep.
And tonight they took it to another level and put the shit on a pay-per-view, and I was really disappointed. I could not believe it. I just wanted to shut it off at that point.
Well, that won me my prediction show because Greg was telling me that it was going to come down to the Street Profits Viking Raiders match as to who was going to win our prediction show, because I had the Viking Raiders, the other guy had the Street Profits, and they never had the match. So I automatically won because we all picked Randy Orton. So that worked out.
But it was basically a draw, right? Because they both landed in the dump. Both teams landed in the dumpster.
Yeah, but they canceled the match. They never had the match.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, a match that was billed as the greatest wrestling match ever. How do you, before we get into the match,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about the WWE promoting the match as that, and WWE using the word wrestling again to promote something outside of WrestleMania? They've been so adamant about telling people that they can't use the term wrestling or professional wrestling, and in place use sports entertainment. So now they're building something as the greatest wrestling match ever. And now, first off, knowing myself, I tend to disagree that it's the greatest wrestling match ever. I like the two guys a lot, and I think obviously it was a really great match.
Well, when you say greatest wrestling match ever, now you're looking at, just off the top of my head, Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage.
Steamboat and Flair.
Steamboat and Flair.
Yep. Hogan, Andre.
Well, that wasn't a wrestling match. That was just a bunch of brawls.
It was a lot of hype.
Yeah, a lot of hype.
Yes.
But as far as wrestling matches go, I would even say a couple years back, John Cena, AJ Styles was a tremendous match.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, those are wrestling matches. Those are ones
right.
Those were the ones that you can fit under the moniker greatest wrestling match ever.
And I'm not going to disagree with, Edge and Orton not being some of the greatest in the history of the business. And, but, I think, they put on a hell of a match. I'm going to tell you, I didn't turn away from the television at all during that. Right. It was probably about 40 minutes with the promos, right?
I had to pee twice. I was afraid to get up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to miss anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, you said you weren't surprised, but I was a little bit that Randy Orton won. But I guess they're building up for a whole series of matches, really, because Edge won the first one, Orton won the second, and I'm gathering for SummerSlam there's going to be a third.
Well, Randy Orton only has a contract for 5 appearances and 3 of them are 9 appearances, 3 of them wrestling.
Well, Randy Orton does?
No, I mean Edge.
Edge. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was his second time wrestling. So I think they'll probably have the last feud at either SummerSlam or Survivor Series.
I'm assuming it's going to be. My guess is SummerSlam. But it could very well be the other one, Survivor Series. But SummerSlam, you got to figure it's only 2 months away.
Yeah.
Then that would mean that he'd have a whole 4 months left of the year with only just making appearances. So maybe that's not necessarily going to happen. But it was good. It was good. It was really action packed. There was the dubbed crowd noise, which I thought was a bit weird for me, to be honest with you. I think the overdubbed crowd noise. I like the Howard Finkel involvement.
That was an amazing tribute to Howard Finkel.
Absolutely, because I mean he was a very important part of our childhood, Howard Finkel.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now let me get your opinion on something. We talk about this quite a bit on the Top Rope Report. I'm a firm believer that any title match, WWE title match, women's title match, universal title match, where the belt is on the line, should be the main event.
You got a point there. And that's always, well, I got a point. You got a point there, to be honest with you. And I absolutely 100% agree with you. It should always be the closer of the match. It wasn't until, when Hogan wrestled, it was always the last match on the show for big events. It wasn't until maybe when Savage or whoever afterwards that there was a chance that it might be the second to last or whatever. But if you look back in the history books, Backlund's show matches, some of those were like midway through the show when he was defending the title, or maybe like 2 or 3 before the end of the night. And San Martino still had a couple, like once in a while would not necessarily be the closing match.
Right.
So I just find it bizarre because in my eye, that's always the most important match of the evening, and that's why people are buying tickets and that their asses are in the seats.
Yep.
Yeah.
The same thing with John Cena. When John Cena was champion, his matches were always last.
They were always last. And he was a superstar. He was probably the last superstar that the company had, to be honest with you. It seems like right now they're just not able to build as
Right.
many superstars as they once were. I don't know if it's something that's trying to do or if it's something that they just can't do. Because it seems like they gave guys like Seth Rollins a gigantic push, and it doesn't seem like it's taken off too well.
The one thing I'm disappointed in with WWE is I thought they would have had John Cena beat Ric Flair's record.
I'm not necessarily disappointed in that. I think that what I'm upset with is that they had him tie his record because, in my personal belief, is that Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. You're not going to get any better than him. So the fact that he actually beat it, I mean, not even beat it, but tied him at 16 times, I was just thought that was a bunch of malarkey. Because I mean, they should have maybe either given a Rick one more or just had John end at 15, not reach 16, because it's Ric Flair is Ric Flair. He's the greatest of all time.
Now, do you think the WWE puts the title on the same guy too many times?
They've done that with certain guys, definitely. I think with guys like Cena, but I think also Cena was he was also able to determine when he was kind of done with the business and wanted to do other things. He saw his opportunities, started doing things like acting and other such things. You know what I mean? Same thing with Rocky and I think that's pretty much it there with those guys. It's like they do put the title on too many times. Like I don't think Seth Rollins needs another WWE title or Universal title for quite a while. How do you feel about that?
Oh, definitely, because now Seth Rollins is the Monday Night Messiah, so to speak, and
Right.
where I'm staying right now, I've been here for a little over 2 months now, and the TV set that I was watching my programs on didn't get the USA Network, so I couldn't watch Monday Night Raw.
Okay.
Well, now I can watch Monday Night Raw starting tomorrow night because I have the new TV, the new stations. And let me get your opinion on Rey Mysterio and Dominic.
Let me
I
tell
gave
you.
I
Go
gave
ahead.
my opinion on the podcast this morning or this afternoon rather on the prediction show, and I
Okay.
told I told Greg I wouldn't be surprised for a storyline if WWE puts Dominic as one of the disciples of Seth Rollins.
That's interesting that you say that. My guess was I didn't necessarily think that, but I definitely did think that he was going to turn heel at some point. Because it definitely, from what I understand, he definitely is going to be wrestling at some point. And I think the whole thing of building up Rey Mysterio's retirement, it's just every time there's somebody claims to be retiring, it just ends up to be a bunch of crap. And it's just, oh, look, I'm not retiring. I'm going to have another 2 or 3 years of
Right.
matches because I pissed somebody off and now they're attacking me.
Yep, I agree there.
So yeah, I just think that there's just too much going on as far as like Monday Night Raw and the Disciples. I really like Buddy Murphy a lot. I do like the feud. I like Aleister Black in there a lot. And what's the other guy that Aleister Black's teaming with? I'm trying to remember.
Humberto Carrillo.
Yeah, I think that guy's great. He reminds me of like sort of like a luchador, he's kind of like a young Steamboat, but kind of like mixes in lucha libre with there as well. You know.
Right. And one thing the I was surprised at today was, we were talking earlier today about which match the WWE left off the pay-per-view that you felt should have been on. And I told Greg today, they want to build up a feud between Aleister Black and Seth Rollins. Why not put that on the show tonight?
Why was that not on the show? That's a little weird. One of the things that I wanted to get into is that I'm looking at the lineup here. There was 7 matches for the entire pay-per-view.
6 of them were title matches.
I'm sorry?
6 of them were title matches.
Yeah. Yep. And if you look at it, it's outside of the title match, the WWE match, second to last. It wasn't. It was the semi-main. Everything else was like a mid-card match. If you
Right.
think about it, where was guys like Seth Rollins, who is supposed to be one of the bigger stars in the company, and um, Aleister Black. That's one of the most prominent feuds going right now.
Yep.
Is those two guys right there?
And even though he wasn't wrestling on the show tonight, Kevin Owens showed up. Why wasn't he on the card wrestling?
Yeah. And what's his face? Otis, who was Money in the Bank last month or the month before?
Last month.
Last month, right.
Yep.
So, and he just, all they did was show clips of Money in the Bank and a part of SmackDown with him in it. They didn't do anything else to feature him, who he's getting a big push right now. Right. I thought maybe he would pop in and like cash in on the title or something, but that didn't even happen.
Well, supposedly,
because the way that they.
What I heard through the grapevine,
yeah,
Otis wants to cash in the Money in the Bank on the Tag Team Championship.
I heard that too, but where's Tucker? I haven't seen him in a while either.
Tucker was there Friday night.
Yeah, well, like I said, I didn't watch Friday night yet, so I have no idea what happened yet.
They had a six-man tag team match. It was Miz, Morrison, and Dolph Ziggler against Braun Strowman and Heavy Machinery.
Sounds like a barn burner right there.
Oh yeah.
Main event.
The best part of the whole match was when Mandy Rose came out in her Daisy Dukes.
That had to be. that must have been pretty good to look at right there.
Yeah.
What I liked was the one of the things that I did like involving Otis and Mandy was the scene that they did by the poolside.
Yep.
And it was like it was an ode to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. If you ever saw that movie.
Oh, I love that movie. Yep.
With the Otis going in the pool and coming out like kind of like Phoebe Cates did in the pool, and I thought that was hilarious. That was hilarious. But I think Otis is a good character. He's very funny. I don't necessarily like comedic wrestlers, but that guy actually has me rolling every time.
Yep.
But I thought that this pay-per-view was like really lacked star power, and I'm surprised if this was a pay-per-view, like if you had to go and buy this, pay $60 for it, I never would have paid $60 for it because there was not enough star power to garner interest in this particular show. It was just a regular, seemed like a really like a glorified house show. Yeah, like in some small weird town in the middle of nowhere. So they just put a couple WWE guys on it. You know what I mean? It wasn't very interesting.
I gave it an overall grade of a C.
Yeah, I think they're being.
That's being a generous one. That's being generous.
I was gonna say you're being pretty freaking generous with that, because that's a rough C right there. Because outside of the main event, I'm looking back at this card and I liked McIntyre and Lashley just a tiny bit, but I don't think Lashley's really that great of a wrestler.
Yep.
It was, and Asuka and Nia was all right, but the ending sucked. It was just a mediocre show at best. It really wasn't that great of a show, and I can't.
Match was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well.
That was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So I guess right now we're going to get into a little some other stuff. What else have you been doing as far as like professional wrestling goes? Have you been watching anything outside of Raw, SmackDown, or any NXT or WWE?
I watched SmackDown. I'm going to start watching Raw again tomorrow night. But I watched NXT TakeOver in your house.
What'd you think of that show? I thought it was a really good show.
Amazing pay-per-view.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of nods to the old In Your House pay-per-views, like the Johnny Gargano walking out, and there was like an 8x10 framed picture of Michael Hayes, or Doc Hendricks rather, like hanging up on the wall. I thought it was pretty funny.
Then they have the old announcer, Todd Pettingzoo.
Yep, Todd Pettingzoo. I ran into him once at the Hartford Civic Center outside of WrestleMania 11. He was, I don't know, did you go to that? You're in Connecticut too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was there, and we went to the Fan Fest in the morning, and then we were walking out to go get lunch, and then we were coming back in, and Todd Pettingzoo was like walking right past us, trying to get to a restaurant before the show started. Yep. He was like, "Oh, hey guys," and he just like kept running down the road. So, yeah, that was a fun time. Not one of the best WrestleManias, but it's definitely, as far as Connecticut history, it's definitely a fun show to have been attended.
Right.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about the Top Rope Report? Tell the
Okay,
fans.
sure. The Top Rope Report podcast can be heard on Sundays. Right now, we're doing it in the afternoon because most people out there know, and the ones out there that don't know, my co-host Greg the Nugster has been in the hospital for the last month, and he'll be coming home next Saturday. Thank God. And we do the show now at 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. You can hear us on 1640 PWPR Pro Wrestling Podcast Radio, TalkShoe.com, and Anchor. Been doing the pay-per-view live. We do the podcast live. I've been doing it on and off for about 11 years now, but consistently for the last 6 with Greg. And we've had the who's who of wrestlers on the podcast. We've had Coco Beware, we've had Barry Horowitz, Mario Mancini, Tugboat, Gangrel, JTG from Crime Time was on the show.
Wow.
So we're the only thing I didn't like, one of the wrestlers, I'm hearing myself echo. The only thing I didn't like was there's a gentleman that wrestled in TNA some time back, wrestled under the name of Robbie E.
He's in NXT now as Richard Stone.
Yeah, well, we invited him on our podcast.
Yeah.
Call our podcast. And that son of a bitch tried to charge us $30 to call my podcast.
That's a little ridiculous.
Right. He wanted us to send him the money. So Greg and I sat down and we thought about it. We talked and we said, hey, Robbie E, he's a known wrestler. I mean, he's seen on TV. Okay. We'll send him $30 through PayPal, give him the time, have him call. He never called. Boy, did Greg lay into him in a post on the computer. And so if there's anybody out there looking to get Robbie E or whatever, just make sure you got enough in your bank account because he will charge you just to call your podcast.
Just be careful with that. That's a pretty sad story, to be honest with you. Yeah. It's like, because that's just, he should be looking to try to promote himself instead of trying to rip off people, That's
we
kind of messed up.
We do a lot of shows that have indie wrestlers on because
right.
I like to get the indie stars out there.
Right.
I mean, we've had indie wrestlers on our show from Arizona, Indiana, Pennsylvania. I have, like I said, I have Dustin Flash Waller coming on the show this Sunday. Next Sunday, rather. We've had Lucas Chase. So we've had Matt DeCourt. We've had a cornucopia of PAPW stars, and we're going to continue to do it as well once things start opening up and we start going back to the shows again. We'll really start picking it up.
Hey, let's not forget that I was a guest on your show as well, my man.
Exactly. Rick and as a matter of fact, Rick was one of the very few that was live in studio with us.
Yep. Well, it's really not that far from my house, the place, the studio. So it was a pleasure to be on there, man, and I will definitely come back anytime.
And we're definitely going to have you back on again. And,
man, I would love to.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk with Greg about having you come on the show and do a prediction show with us.
Oh, absolutely, man. Just,
be a special guest predictor, so to speak, and get your predictions on who do you think is going to win the matches, how they're going to win the matches. Like with tag teams, what we do is we predict who we think is going to win, who's going to get the win, and who's going to take the loss. So it makes our prediction shows a lot more interesting when that happens.
Yeah, just let me know, man. I'm always willing to come on. Let me ask rather, who's probably been one of your favorite guests, or even a couple of your favorite guests that you've had on Top Rope Report?
Well, I'd have to say, for the professional big stars, I'd have to say it's a tie between Coco Beware and my good friend Tugboat, Fred Ottman.
Oh, Fred Ottman's a great dude. I'm friends with him on Facebook as well, and he is such a nice dude. Really, he really is.
And the amazing thing with these guys is the stories they have to tell.
Yeah, yeah.
I ran into one time when I was doing. See, my podcast goes over the internet and the airwaves now. But
Mm-hmm.
when I first started doing it, it was on TV
Yeah, on
and
public out of
on
Wallingford, right?
public access. Yep.
Yep.
And I remember one time, a friend of mine, John, told me he could get me a wrestler on when I was growing up, I followed the guy down, way down yonder in his career, down Louisiana, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And John's sister goes, "Well, I'm good friends with him. I'm his agent. I can get him as a guest on your show in studio." And I said, "Ah, come on, that would be awesome." Well, come to find out, he did get me this wrestler, and he was on our show a few times. We became very, very close friends, and eventually he passed away at the age of 84. Was my friend, the fantastic and legendary Ox Baker.
Oh, right. Yeah, the legend. Yep.
And
Yep.
I remember Ox Baker on our show one night, and I asked him, and he asked me, he said, "Mr. Trivia, I want to ask you two questions. The first question is, who was the very first man to body slam Andre the Giant?" And even before I went to answer the question, he goes, "You're looking at him. You're talking to him."
Oh, really? I
He
was gonna
goes,
say
he
I was
goes,
gonna
"Here's the
say
second
I was gonna say Antonio
he
Inoki,
says,
but I guess I'm wrong.
here's the second question he asked me. He said, "Who
Yep.
was the only man to knock out Hulk Hogan 6 consecutive nights?" He says, "You're talking to him."
Wow.
He said, Hulk Hogan, he said to me, he goes, "Hulk Hogan is the reason why I was never in the WWF.
Wow.
He told Vince McMahon, do not bring him here."
What about uh what was I gonna say? I didn't even know this until recently. I was reading about him that he was actually living in Hartford up until his death.
He was living in Darien, Connecticut.
Yeah, that's up in that
Yeah.
area. Yeah. I
I
had
was,
no
I was,
idea that he was up there.
I was fortunate enough to become very good friends with his daughter, Megan.
Yep.
And I was fortunate enough to.
You there? Please don't tell me, Mike.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
And boom. All right, we're recording. We were talking about Ox Baker. Sorry about that, bud.
Yeah, later on he became a very, very close friend of mine, a very close friend of the podcast. He was on my show quite a few times. Definitely a man to reckon with when he was in the squared circle. Definitely.
Right, right. I don't know if you watch my YouTube videos. Have you checked any of them out, Mike?
No, I haven't. I'll need to know where to go to get them, to watch them.
All right. I usually I usually post them to Facebook, Twitter, and then you can go to my YouTube page, the Professor Rick Del Santo, and I usually what I do is I usually show my merchandise off, like recently acquired merchandise, whether it be DVDs, wrestling shirts, or whatever, and autographs, stuff like that. So um, I think that you'd probably like some of that stuff if you saw it, especially being a collector or not a collector, but a historian yourself, and some of the stuff that you like.
Well,
Because I mean, I go back.
Hold on, Rick. Let me. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Let me find something here.
Sure, sure. one of the things that I got recently.
Okay, I'm back. Rick, can you still see me?
Yep, I can still see you. One of the things that I got recently is I got a bunch of 70s programs from out in the Midwest and the AWA programs. Vern Gagne's Wrestling News. I bought a bunch off of High Spots, and I think it's amazing. Those things were amazing to look through last night when I opened them up, and I did a YouTube video where I got a huge haul of merchandise between that and a huge box of DVDs and some other stuff. And those were probably like the beauty of the entire package, to be honest with you.
I have a few autographed photos I'd like to show you that I've acquired over the years. This one here.
What's that one? I can't see that. Is that Billy Graham?
That's the Warlord.
Oh, the Warlord. I'm sorry, I couldn't see it too well.
This one here.
Oh, nice. Typhoon. Fred Ottman. We were just talking about him.
I've got this one here. I don't know if very many people know this guy.
I can't really make the picture out from the Skype.
That is Johnny Fabulous, John Cena's father.
Oh, I know John Cena's father. Yeah. Yep.
And I've got this one here from the Mexicools.
I remember the Mexicools, definitely.
And I have this one here, the franchise, Shane Douglas.
Yep, a legend in the business, former NWA World Champion.
I remember this guy, Buzz Sawyer.
Yep, that guy is one of the greatest of all time, in my personal opinion. I loved his feud with Tommy Rich. Nikolai Volkov. I just got a Nikolai Volkov autographed comic book, believe it or not. That's amazing. And what was that? Shane Strickland?
Oh, that is JTG from Crime Time.
JTG. I couldn't really see it. Sorry about that.
You know this guy.
Yep.
Brian Anthony.
I have two of his autographs. He was kind enough. He saw a picture of a trading card of his that I posted, and he messaged me through Instagram saying, "Hey, I'll send you an autographed one," like out of the blue. Totally out of the blue. And so he sent me an autographed card, the same one that I had posted, and he sent me an 8x10 autograph, but he signed it to the commoner, Rick. But he's a cool dude, It was really nice of him to do that.
Here's my favorite autographed photo that I met him at my friend's video game store when he came in to sign pictures.
Yeah, Beefcake and the Warrior. Yeah.
Brutus the Barber and the Warrior. When I had him sign this picture, there's a little story behind that autograph. When I had him sign that picture, I pointed to the Ultimate Warrior and I said to him, Brutus, there's one guy in the wrestling business that's going to be missed, and that's him right there. Brutus the Barber looked at me and said, not by me. He said, if there's a hell, the Warrior's in it. And he proceeded to tell me why he felt that way.
Right.
Because when Brutus the Barber had the parasailing accident.
Right. I remember that. Yep.
He was the next one in line to beat the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title.
I remember that. They were really building it up, and then that accident happened, and then it ended up being Beefcake. Yep. The Warrior. Yep.
And the Warrior ran out, took his place, and that was that. And the rest is history.
I remember that. That was actually, was it SummerSlam 88? That was the very first pay-per-view I ever purchased for professional wrestling, and I was enamored by that whole thing. That was like, I think watching that, between my first live show and the first pay-per-view I ever purchased, that was the thing that made me obsessed with professional wrestling and made me just start doing stuff, want to do stuff in wrestling. I'm assuming that's Gangrel. I can't, like I said, there's a little glare. Yep, I got that right. Yep.
David Heath.
Yeah, David Heath. He's a cool dude too. I saw him at a show a while back, and he was a really nice dude.
I also want to let the people know out there that there is a wrestling convention coming up in Hartford.
Yep, the Wrestling Classic, and the lineup for that so far, if it does happen, it's in September. If it does happen, it's going to possibly be probably the most amazing wrestling convention that there ever was, to be honest with you. So there is.
Joe Blunt has a pretty good one too for the New England Fan Fest, because I went out there for Fan Fest 5 with Mario Mancini, and I ran into Jim Cornette, Howard Finkel, Goldberg, Kelly, Jimmy Snuka. But the Top Rope Report will be planning to make an appearance there at the Hartford show. And
Speaking of which,
yep,
go ahead. Speaking of which, the New England Fan Fest with the New England Wrestling Hall of Fame. I have a New England Wrestling Hall of Famer on the show this week, actually, believe it or not. The Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, is making an appearance tomorrow night.
He has been on the Top Rope Report before.
He is a great dude.
He is. And one of the things I liked about that was with the show coming up in Hartford, as I told Greg, one of the guests we've had on our show from the WWF will be at that Hartford show, and we're looking forward to meeting him. And that is Mr. Technical Barry Horowitz.
Mr. Technical, yeah, he's one of my favorites. If you ever see him in a straight match, just not jobbing, he is one of the greatest performers that you'll ever see in a wrestling match, to be honest with you. Outside, when I used to watch him and pay attention to him on house shows, wrestling guys like Paul Roma or Jim Powers, and he was a phenomenal worker. And his run in the GWF, in the Global Wrestling Federation, as their light heavyweight champion, he was a really great wrestler.
Yep. He was also telling me he does not like to use the word jobber.
It's insulting to some men, and I respect that. We got to try to respect that. I don't really know.
They are known as enhancement talent.
Yeah, even still, I still find that a little bit offensive at times.
Another interesting story.
Yep.
That we had with the Top Rope Report was when Mario Mancini was our guest. Everybody out there that I talked wrestling with years past had always told me that the Undertaker's debut match was the Survivor Series in Hartford, Connecticut.
Yep, I remember watching that. Yep.
And it wasn't. That was his.
It was against Mario. Yeah, it was against Mario Mancini.
That was his debut pay-per-view.
Yeah. Yep.
Mario told me he was the debut match for the Undertaker.
Yep.
He was the debut match for Greg the Hammer Valentine. He was the debut match for King Kong Bundy.
Yep.
And him and SD Jones were the debut match for the Hart Foundation as a tag team.
Yep. Mario worked with everybody. Worked with everybody. He was a great worker. It's funny because on his podcast, I'm sure you listen to his podcast, the Mario and Chaos show. A while back, probably earlier this year or late last year, he was talking about a match that he had with Playboy Buddy Rose on Primetime Wrestling. That was a really good match because I just so happened to be watching it right before they mentioned it for some reason. It was like an amazing coincidence. And that was a really good match. Mario got some really good offense in that match. It was a very good technical match. Playboy Buddy Rose, I think, was mistreated in the WWF in the late 80s, early 90s. He was just treated like, for lack of a better term, and I don't, like I said, I just mentioned that I don't like this term, but he was treated like he was a jobber. And he was a guy that was huge in the AWA as a tag team champion, and even before that, elsewhere in the Pacific Northwest.
And it's just a thing where, the WWE, WWF, whatever it is, they had certain wrestlers in their organization, excuse me, that they did not use properly.
Black Bart is one of them. If you ever looked at Black Bart and his go ahead.
One of the guys that I always said, if the WWE used him correctly, probably would have been a great world champion, and that was Lex Luger.
You're right. I watched Lex the other night, actually, on TV. He was on the High Spots live auction on Facebook, and he seemed like he was very humble about the entire situation, talking about working with Yoko and working just, in his whole career. And it seemed like it looked like they were actually going to put the title on him, and I think that they just changed their mind because it just wasn't rolling in the direction that they didn't really think that it was rolling in the right direction. But it was, I think that maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe they're looking at it in a different way. But I'm sure you were watching at the time, the crowds were going crazy every time Lex Luger was in the ring going after Yokozuna. And in my eyes, that would look like he's doing everything in the right direction. But Vince didn't think so and didn't want to put his world title on him.
Yep, the first man to ever appear on an episode of Nitro and Monday Night Raw on the same night.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
amazing. That was amazing.
Who was the other guy? There was one more, wasn't there?
Yeah, but I can't remember who it was.
Ravishing Rick Rude.
Oh, Ravishing Rick Rude, that's right.
Yep. He showed up he was on Raw, taped with a mustache, and he was on Nitro, and he had shaved his mustache. Yeah.
Speaking of tape, let me ask you this question. How do you feel about the last two, the big pay-per-view, WrestleMania over 2 nights, and this pay-per-view tonight being taped?
I don't mind them being taped. What I mind is that, they're doing, before I get into anything, I don't want it to be perceived as negative. I think they're doing a really good thing at trying to distract a lot of people from what's going on in the world. And by continuing to produce TV and trying to put smiles on people's faces. And there's a worldwide pandemic going on, and they're just trying to get people's minds off that shit. And, and they're still putting on really good shows. Decent shows at best, I should say. Never mind. But whether it's taped or whether it's live, they're still going to do the same exact thing. And I don't care that pay-per-views are taped. Just put a little bit more heart and effort into it. And it's difficult right now. So you can't necessarily even judge the pay-per-views that are coming out because there's no fans in attendance, and they're just trying to make the people at home, because they can't leave the house. They're just trying to make them happy and trying to distract them from all the other crap that's going on in the world. Right. That's just my personal opinion, And
what's the one thing you like about watching Raw and SmackDown with no fans? What's the one thing you like about it? Because I'll tell you what I like.
It's very difficult. What I do like is that they've been paying a lot of attention to guys that probably wouldn't necessarily get attention, say in when they were in big arenas. Like they called up guys like Angel Garza and Austin Theory, and they're pushing them pretty good in the tag, and they're in the division with what's his face, Andrade. But Austin Theory left, right? He was left a couple weeks ago, and now he's with. Is he one of the disciples now? Yeah. Right? Am I wrong? Okay, I'm correct. All right. So, but it's like those guys like that some people are getting chances, and I think that's probably the best thing that's going on right now in that situation, is that there's guys that were in NXT that are getting attention, that are getting chances on the main roster and on national television, and are getting recognized a little bit better. They're relying on some people, and I think Vince is figuring out who he's able to rely on. And a lot of those guys are the younger guys that are hungry to be seen on national television. Guys like I said, Angel Garza and Austin Theory and guys like that.
What I like about it is you can hear the wrestlers talk to each other.
Yeah.
And there's big crowds. You can't. I mean, unless you're a lip reader, you really don't know what they're saying. But it was evident to me during the Charlotte Rhea Ripley match at WrestleMania, because you could actually hear those two talk back and forth to each other. Yeah.
One of the matches at WrestleMania, I think it was Ripley and Charlotte, you can definitely hear a lot. It was pretty clear. But, that's something, like I'm a fan that I love kayfabe. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear stuff like that. You know what I mean? I still kind of want somewhat of a realism in it, so that I don't want everything to be exposed, and I don't want everything to be opened. I still treat it like it's pretty much a sport. You know what I mean? Like some people think it's weird that I watch it as much as I do, but I'm just like, there's guys that watch baseball 7 nights out of the week. I can watch wrestling 7 nights out of the week. You know what I mean? That's my sport.
There's one tag team in the WWE that they're putting some emphasis on, and this team is horrible. And I noticed it tonight. And it's like, oh my God, the Iconics are horrible.
They've been horrible.
And well, Greg said to me, he goes, the sad part about it is they look better than they did when they started.
It's been longer,
is you have to sell. You have to sell when you get hit, when you get kicked, when you get body slammed. They're not selling those things.
Right.
And they look so out of place. They look green in the ring.
Yes. Yep.
And they've been wrestling for a while.
There's a lot of people. There's some people. They're just going to get pushed in WWE based on their looks, whether it's a guy or a girl, because that they look that they can draw money or they can draw 5 extra fans. Look at Bobby Lashley, though. Do you think he's a good wrestler, or do you think he's a good talker? I think neither, really. But the guy looks like a monster, so he's going to bring in people because he looks like a monster.
Yep. Well, before I end and get ready to turn in for the evening, let me get your opinion on a match that I'm looking forward to in the WWE. And I'll tell you why I'm looking forward to this match and why I'm not looking forward to this match is if it happens,
right?
Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar. Reason being is I saw 4 UFC fights
of
Brock Lesnar's. And Rick, he sucks in UFC.
Well, I'm not a huge MMA guy these days. I was in the same 90s, but it was not necessarily even UFC. I mean, when it came to UFC, the only guys I liked were guys like Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock, who were just so happened to also be professional wrestlers. But Brock is from an era of MMA that I don't really know. I haven't really watched MMA in probably about 20 years. So I can't even really judge on his career. He was the champion there. I do know that for a while, and that's all I know.
But I think I saw him fight in. He got knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, I definitely do know that. But what I'd like to see is if they're going to let Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar feud, or they're going to build up to at least one match. I think that what they do need to do is they need to let them go at it as if it's a shoot. Let them open up on each other and just build the best match they can, like old Japanese strong style.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because when they sit there and say, "Oh, Brock Lesnar, pound for pound, the greatest combat athlete in sports," he gets his ass kicked when he goes in the UFC.
He was the first, like I said, he was a UFC world champion at one time, a heavyweight champion. Like I said, I don't even watch MMA anymore. I haven't in probably 20 years, maybe even less. I don't know. But, I just think that he had a successful, I know he had a pretty decent Japanese run, or it was very short, but it was successful and it was very good. So try to build a match like that. Like as if you're watching like old school New Japan or All Japan or something like that. Just let them go at it and hit each other full force and put on an amazing match instead of just WWE style worked match. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, Rick, like I said, I want to thank you for having me on and talk wrestling. We could probably do this all night long.
I could do it all night. One more time before you go, though. Why don't you plug your show and tell everybody where you can find it?
Yeah, definitely. You can find myself, Michael Kanata, Mr. Trivia, on Facebook, along with Greg the Nugster Chester, my co-host. We're on Facebook. Greg's on Instagram. I don't worry about none of that Instagram stuff. I did have a country and western Twitter account, and I changed it to Conway Twitter. It already started out, hello, ladies. But anyway, you can. That was a joke, Rick. You can catch us on, like I said, you can catch the Top Rope Report live on Sundays on 1640 PWPR, Pro Wrestling Podcast Radio, TalkShoe.com, and Anchor. And like I tell everybody, for the best in pro wrestling talk, tune into the Top Rope Report live with Mr. Trivia and the Nugster Greg.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. And once again, if you can, tune into my YouTube page, like, subscribe, and it is the Professor Rick Del Santo. And go and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, and any other major podcast forum.
Absolutely.
And thank you very much. And Mike, thanks again for coming in. I really appreciate you stepping in here this week. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.